Currently, there's a lot of infighting within the Republican Party, and this is actually destroying the coalition. As you've seen a massive drop in support for Republicans, you've seen a massive drop in support for Trump, you've seen a massive drop in support across the board. And this is mainly due to the fact that there's been infighting. Now, one of the major things that they were fighting about within the Republican Party was the Epstein files. Now, there's Trump's group that basically said that they don't want to release the files, and they didn't release the files for a very long time. And then there was Marjorie Taylor Greene's group, and the group of the ones that actively pushed for the to release the Epstein files, and they strongly pushed for it. Now, this caused a massive fight because Trump used to be on the side of releasing the Epstein files, and he actually had a lot of supporters that actually cared about that. This led, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of those big supporters in Congress, which supported Donald Trump on pretty much everything. And due to this fact, that there was this fight, it's led to the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, in my opinion, she shouldn't have resigned in the first place, and people shouldn't be attacking her over what she said. And Donald Trump shouldn't have done that, as she was, again, one of the most loyal supporters of Donald Trump. And I don't know why she's resigning. Hopefully she says why in the video that we're going to watch, but I don't see why she's going to resign at all. Even if Donald Trump did attack her, she should have actually fought and stayed in Congress to push for a legislative agenda. It feels like the fact that she's backing down, she feels like she's giving up on her voters and failing to actually be their voice in Congress. So I don't know why. Hopefully she actually has a reason, and we're actually able to tell here. But I don't think this is the right move for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, this was the post that she put up moments ago. This is her message to Georgia's 14th district. She is saying thank you to her constituents again. She wrote that long note on social media. She also released a video attached to this post. We just got the video in-house. Let's play it. This is the full thing.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced with...
Yeah, whichever side does get in political power, they tend to be captured by corporate interests. Simply because, first of all, to actually get into power as president, you need to have a strong campaign. And a strong campaign is actually very, very expensive. You got to take out ads in certain swing states. You got to pay money to get on the ballot in certain states, in pretty much every state. You got to do all that stuff to actually be able to win the presidency. So most of the time, all these people that are in power are actually captured, as they need by corporations, as they need the money from them to actually get to convince people and get their voice out.
Whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas.
This robotic puppy looks so real, it completely fooled my neighbor who's a veterinarian.
Let's skip the ad. I always hate ads.
Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest. And the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income.
That's definitely true. Now, I did an analysis over whether you could actually live without any government aid a while back in my Snap video, talking about food stamps and how I think the issue's overblown. Now, I do not think that one family can live off of just one person on a low wage income. And that's not good. First of all, we used to have it to where we could do that. One person goes Usually the father ends up going to the factory for the day, and then he has enough money to come back and support his wife and kids. Now, I think we should get back to that somehow. And hopefully we eventually do. But due to the fact that our economic situation is not the best, due to that situation, we can't get back to that. And it's sad. We need to find a way, either through government benefits for having kids, which I actually strongly agree, and somehow increasing our economic output. Be it through less government intervention, more competition, and stuff like that, or basically just find a way to increase the economy. And we haven't been able to do that yet.
Both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah, many people are feeling hopeless. Now, I think there's plenty of hope out there, especially if you work hard, work smart, and actually you could start your own business or join a trade. Because if you look at, trends, if you join a trade, you could actually make a lot of income. You don't have a lot of costs with college or other things like that. Now, you can make a decent amount of money doing that. So I think it's actually very viable if you work hard and are smart to actually be able to live the American dream and have a business, have a decently large income, and be able to live comfortably. Now, I think it's going to be harder than it used to be, that's for sure. But I think it's possible. And there's still hope as long as you actually work hard. And it's very possible. It's going to be hard. And that's another thing with this most recent generation. They feel hopeless and they feel like they can't do it. Yet there's a lot of opportunities to do it out there if you work hard enough. And even though I think we're not in the best economic position, if people actually got out there, worked hard, and they would actually be able to achieve the dream. And I think that's sad that they've lost hope, even though it's very, very possible.
I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that Make America Great Again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First Amendment, Second Amendment, unborn babies, because I believe God creates life at conception, and I love to fight for the little guy. Strong, safe borders, I have fought hard for that. I fought against COVID tyrannical insanity and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars with your hard-earned tax dollars.
She does have one of the most conservative voting records within Congress, and I strongly applaud her for that, because we need people like that in Congress. So I don't get why she would not want to be in Congress still fighting for that. And it just feels like she's giving up. And that's not good. As now we have one less ally within the government that's actually willing to support the America First agenda and basically helping Americans over other nations and helping them first over anyone else. And it's not good.
However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly, resulting in the House not working for the entire time. And we are entering campaign season, which means all courage leaves and only safe campaign re-election mode is turned on in the House.
Yeah, the legislature doesn't actually do much. They're not very hardworking. As she pointed out, there was that 8-week period where there was the House didn't do anything. Now, I don't think it's entirely the House's fault, because they can't really do much in this situation here, as it was the Senate that was the issue. But at least they should have tried something in that situation. They should have tried to pass something that actually helped in a way. Maybe passing a law, an intermediary law that kept certain parts of the government funded while doing something else. Or maybe having a way to where it secures pay for workers that are still forced to work during the shutdown. And the fact that the House didn't do that isn't good, as they're basically giving up and they were basically slowing down the process. And she does have valid complaint there. But even then, she should still stay in Congress to try to actually help and help solve those issues. And the fact that she isn't, it's not helping her points here. It's not helping her at all. Additionally, it's not helping the American people if she just leaves.
Representatives. During the longest shutdown in our nation's history, I raged against my own speaker and my own party for refusing to proactively work diligently to pass the plan to save Americans' health care and protect Americans from...
Now that's something I disagree with. Healthcare right now, we should just cut a whole bunch of spending there. It's not the fact that we have limited subsidies, because we have some of the highest levels of government spending on healthcare. And that's mainly because of the Obamacare stuff that they were debating. So I actually strongly disagree with that there on actually helping fund healthcare more. That's very disagreeable here, and I do not like that she's doing that. But still, they should have actually been working during the shutdown and trying to solve the issue. And she does have a correct point on that they weren't actually helping by just sitting out on the House floor doing nothing, and basically being a 6-week recess.
Outrageous, overpriced, and unaffordable health insurance
Or not
policies.
6 week.
The House should have been in session working every day to fix this disaster. But instead, America was force-fed disgusting political drama once again from both sides of the aisle on television every single day. My bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census counting Americans only to draw new districts, making English the official language of the U.S., making it a felony to medically trans a minor, and other bills like eliminating capital gains taxes on the sale of your primary home and eliminating H-1B visas, just sit.
I agree with most of those policies, but still, I agree with most of those policies except for the H-1B visas. But we're not going to talk about that in this video. But still, everything there, she can help fight for that if she was in the House. So why is she leaving? Why? My question is, with that, is why is she leaving? Now, she still hasn't gotten to that here. She said she's complaining about the House legislature, but that doesn't help prove her point to why she's leaving. And because she can help fight for those within the House, and she can't do it outside. So I don't get what's happening here.
They all sit collecting dust. That's how it is for most members of Congress bills. The Speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote. Many common Americans are no longer easily convinced by paid political propaganda spokespersons and consultants on TV and paid shills on social media obediently serving with cult-like conviction to force others to swallow the political party talking points. Because they know how much credit card debt they have, they know how much their bills have gone up over the past 5 years, they actually do their own grocery shopping and no food costs too much. Their rent has increasingly gone up and up. They have been outbid by corporate asset managers too many times when they put in an offer to buy a house. They have been laid off after being forced to train their visa-holding replacement. The college degree they were told to earn only left them in debt with no big 6-figure salary. They see more homeless people than ever.
Yeah, currently college is a scam. And yeah, I strongly agree with that right now, that a lot of college degrees are a scam. Obviously, doctors, lawyers, and higher paying like engineering degrees. They're not. Economics probably isn't. Physics isn't. But stuff like getting a gender studies major, no. That's you don't get a six-figure income with that. And I think many people have been lied to with that they're guaranteed a 6-figure salary if they get if they get a degree. And that's nowhere true. No way true. Even like physicist, which I said is probably one of the higher demand ones, is it's important for a lot of jobs. They don't get 6 figures right off the bat. So a lot of people have been lied to with that.
On their own community streets. They can't afford health insurance or practically any insurance, and they just aren't stupid. These are the people I represent and love because that is who all of my family and friends are, common Americans. I have been blessed to represent the 14th District of Georgia for 5 years. The district is filled with some of the most wonderful, kind-hearted, God-fearing, patriotic, hardworking people you will ever meet. Good, regular, common Americans. I've worked hard to bring taxpayer dollars back home to help district needs. I impeached Biden's Secretary of Homeland after watching my constituents die as he facilitated dangerous open border invasion into America. And I led the effort to defund hard-left politically biased NPR and PBS and the corrupt USAID, and I did that as chair of the DOJ subcommittee. I have fought harder than almost any other elected Republican to elect Donald Trump and Republicans to power.
She's fought hard. Why not continue fighting? That it still confuses me. She hasn't answered really anything of why she's actually leaving yet. And she should, hopefully she says that.
Traveled the country for years. I spent millions of my own money. I missed precious time with my family that I can never get back. And I showed up in places like outside.
That's actually a valid reason, spending time with your family. I definitely probably agree. Even though that these jobs take, even though legislature has so much time off, there's still probably a lot of time that even outside of that, they're usually probably talking with other representatives, and they're not actually in session. When they're not actually in session, and so I bet this job does take up a decent amount of time. And having being with family is definitely a valid reason to not do it anymore. Now, if that's a reason, then good for her, because she does deserve time with her family. Everyone does. And in fact, that's probably one of the main things I might not actually end up going into politics as like a job. I probably continue this because it only takes like an hour or two a day to make, sometimes 3 depending on this one, depending on the video and the research I want to do with it. But still, I bet this being a representative takes a lot more time, and that's definitely true.
The New York courthouse in Collect Pond Park against a raging leftist mob as Trump faced Democrat lawfare. Meanwhile, most of the establishment Republicans who secretly hate him and who stabbed him in the back and never defended him against anything have all been welcomed in right after the election. And I will never forget the day.
Well, that's probably because he needs their support. If it's just his base and the people that strongly support him that he tries to get in Congress, he's never going to get anything passed in the legislature. Anything at all. So he needs someone that's at least somewhat politically allied with him, which are going to be establishment Republicans more than any other Democrats. To be honest, literally all of them are. Most of them, except for like the couple that ended up eventually siding with Trump over the shutdown bill, are captured by the left wing. So he has to get people that are actually at least somewhat on his side here, and that's why he let them in. And that's good because he actually does need their votes within the Congress.
I had to leave my mother's side as my father had brain surgery to remove cancerous tumors in order to fly to Washington, D.C. to defend President Trump and vote no against the Democrats' second impeachment in 2021. My poor father and my poor mother, it was way too much for all of us. Through it all, I never...
Yeah, honestly, she shouldn't have done that. Because it's not good for her mental health, first of all. And again, family always comes first. And honestly, she should have just stayed. Even though it's, again, disregarding her responsibility to her constituents. Still, it's more of an issue if she doesn't actually protect her family, because family always comes first. And that's no matter the person, in my opinion.
Changed or went back on my campaign promises and only disagreed in a few areas, like my stance against H-1Bs replacing American jobs, AI state moratoriums, debt for life 50-year mortgage scams, standing strongly against all involvement in foreign wars, and demanding the release of the Epstein files. Other than that...
Yeah, she mostly ideologically agrees with Trump. Again, some of those were major hot-button issues, like the Epstein files. But still, she agreed on a lot of immigration and a lot of DEI against foreign wars, as Trump tends to be against. In fact, he wants to solve peace and everything. That's been one of his pushes, is getting peace throughout the world, and ending wars. So she agrees on pretty much everything, except for a couple differences. And those differences are important. But yet she was attacked. And I think that shouldn't have happened with Donald Trump. And I disagree with with him on that. He shouldn't have attacked Marjorie Taylor Greene in a way that was... he shouldn't have attacked her that much. But it happened. It just happened.
My voting record has been solidly with my party and the president. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be...
Agreed. Loyalty. If you're trying to be loyal to someone, the other person has to be loyal to you too. Even when there's some conflict, you got to reason it out. Now, I don't think they should have reasoned this out back behind closed doors, and they shouldn't have publicly attacked each other so much. And and I think Trump did try to did betray her here. He also betrayed the American people by not actually supporting the release of the Epstein files. Now, he did actually end up signing the bill to release the files. But the only reason... and he did eventually do that. But he didn't for a while. So it was right for Marjorie Taylor Greene to to disagree with him on that. And Trump shouldn't have attacked her so much. So I think that is probably one of the factors here for why she's leaving. Is the fact that she was attacked by Trump so much. But still, she's been a supporter for him for like forever. She's been one of the most loyal supporters. So I don't get why he's pushed her out.
Able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests, because our job title is literally representative. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government.
As I've traveled the world,
Stupid
I've seen
ads.
how we've become lost in...
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for. However, while yes, hurtful, my heart remains filled with joy, my life is filled with happiness, and my true convictions remain unchanged, because my self-worth is not defined by a man, but...
Then why not stand up for those convictions again in Congress? You're not giving a logical reason to why you're leaving yet. The only one was family, but you didn't make that the main point. You didn't make that the main point. You made the main point that you were attacked and betrayed. Why not just stand up for it? And another thing is that you said your beliefs are the main thing. You made this main thing about your main points about your beliefs. So still, why not just continue to stand up in Congress? Even if you yourself aren't going to actually get a lot of stuff done, you're still standing up and still fighting for what you believe in. And by backing down and leaving Congress, she's not doing that anymore. And it's not helping her get her what she wants within government.
Instead, by God, who created everything in existence. You see, I have never valued power, titles, or attention, in spite of all the wrong assumptions about me. I do not cling to those things because they are meaningless and empty traps that hold too many people in Washington. I believe in term limits.
Yeah, all of those are empty traps. If you obsess over power, you're not going to be satisfied in the long run. It's not going to help you. It's going to be emotionally hurtful. And if you actually eventually get enough power, you're going to be bored. You lost your meaning in life. So she's very correct that you shouldn't be obsessing over money and power at all. And that's one thing I particularly hate about the culture right now in the U.S. is that we obsess over those. We have an extremely materialistic society, and we should get back to where we're actually caring more about the family and those loved ones around you instead of money and things and power.
And do not think Congress should be a lifelong career or an assisted living facility.
Yeah, that's another thing. I made a video earlier about term limits. The about Pelosi, but one of the points there was term limits to limit like this, and I think we should just do it. I agree with a lot of the stuff she says, and she should be continuing in power, and I don't know why she's leaving. Hopefully, she decides not to resign, eventually, maybe come back, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, though, because usually once you resign forever. You don't come back, and it's not. And I don't. Hopefully, she actually somehow comes back to support her stuff, but I don't think that's going to happen.
My goal and desire has ever been to hold the Republican Party accountable for the promises it makes to the American people and put America first. And I have fought against Democrats' damaging policies like the Green New Deal, wide open, deadly, unsafe border policies, and the trans agenda on children and against women. With that has brought years of non-stop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander and lies about me that most...
There has been a lot of death threats. You see this, a lot of death threats against conservatives in particular. And you've seen it over and over again. I made another video the other day where it's basically saying points about, it was over the protests at TPUSA and how they were violent in trying to stop political thought. And these death threats have a similar function. And that might be another reason, is that she's been getting death threats and she doesn't want that death threats anymore. And I think that's a viable reason to actually leave.
People could never withstand even for a single day. It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family. But it's been wrong to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much. And I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for. Only to fight and win.
That's the reason. She's afraid to get primaried. Oh, that's it. Okay. No, I honestly don't think she would. She might be primaried. As, again, Trump does control a large amount of the base. But honestly, I don't... Still, why not just continue to fight for 2 more years? And try to actually solve issues and try to get more people on your side. And by resigning, you're just giving them what they want. So she's afraid to get primaried, but you're just giving them what they want by resigning. So it's still not a valid reason, but it might be like an emotional reason. Additionally, combined with the reason for death threats and the reason of death threats and actually spending one time with families, I bet that all adds up in a way that actually does give it an actually valid reason for her to actually leave. But still, she's been dealing with this for years, so why now? Why now is she leaving? I don't see a reason for her to leave now, but besides the primary. But it could just eventually be all adding up against her, and she's in a more vulnerable emotional state, and she wants to de-stress, because that could be it. And I think that's very valid.
Election, while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better. If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well. There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played. When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it. Until then,
she's leaving their side. So basically, what she's trying to do is protest against the current, what she refers as political industrial complex of both parties. But the best way she could do that is basically leave the Republican Party and then still be in Congress, but be a third party. Why isn't she doing that? She's not answered a lot of reasons. There's still a lot of speculation here of why she's leaving. She hasn't given any one major coherent reason. She's just attacked the Republican Party over and over again, attacked the political system. Yet she's never given an actual solution or done anything or is doing something to actually impede that by resigning. Impeding trying to help them. So it's a loss for the country that she's leaving. But I don't see what her plan is here.
Going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026, and I look forward to seeing many of you again sometime in the future. May God bless you all, and may God bless America.
That was the state.
Now, it's a loss for America. She should have stayed in power within Congress, as she was voted in by the people. And I hope we're all well in doing what she wants, and I hope she actually gets more time with her family, because that was one of the actual valid reasons that she was actually able to leave, wanting to leave. And I think it's very good, very noble to actually spend a lot of time with her family. But hopefully she is successful in the future. And sadly, I don't think she's given a very good reason for her to leave besides family. And I think that's the most important reason, but that wasn't her main focus in the entire speech. So hopefully she is successful in her future endeavors. And I think it's sad that she left. But whatever. We've lost an ally in Congress, and it's not a good sign for the Republican Party as a whole either. As once you have leaders start leaving, it shows a gradual degradation of the party, and it's not good for this position within the party at all. So it's not good. But hopefully she's successful in her future, and I wish her well.